This meeting to order. We appreciate all of you being here tonight and joining us in this fun adventure. Looks like we have a full council tonight. We appreciate them being here with us. We'll begin by having our city manager, Josh Bake, give us an opening prayer, and then we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we are so grateful that we can meet this evening tonight to have city council meeting, to handle the affairs of Roosevelt City, and help the progress and happiness of this wonderful community. We ask that God please bless us with thy spirit this evening, that our elected leaders can do thy work, to look out for the best interests of these fine citizens, and to help us enjoy happiness and safety. We are grateful for this wonderful land that we live, for the safety and security that we have, for wonderful resources, and this great moisture that we have been blessed with. We ask you to please bless us that we may continue to love our neighbors and show goodwill and support for everyone. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item that we have are the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any amendments or corrections to those?
I move we approve then.
Okay. Motion by Councilman Lusenbark. Second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any motion passes. We have our public comment period tonight. Anybody that's joining us can take opportunity to speak to the council up to 3 minutes. And we ask that you come in and state your name and for the record. Are there any here tonight that would like to take that opportunity? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. We have Moon Lake, members of Moon Lake Association with us tonight, and we'll go ahead and turn some time over to you. We have some subdivision approvals.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what we have are 3 parts of the property that we're doing a minor subdivision split and conjoining with the already owned 40 and change acres that Moon Lake owns south of Roosevelt. So planning and zoning has approved this minor subdivision and a lot line adjustment, but we're just bringing to you 3 separate minor subdivision, looking for resolution on the approval for 3 separate ones where there's 3 separate property owners. This will also comply with the previous conditional use criteria that was set in February 18th of 2020, City Council and Planning and Zoning, which there are certain provisions that was agreed upon and stated in Planning and Zoning. And this is an R16 zone. This will be for a substation for future grow out of Moon Lake Electric. And with that, let you guys.
Thank you. We appreciate being here and all your attention this evening. My name is Dean Sellers. I'm with Moon Lake, legal and administrative advisor. I'm here with Mary Stewart, our right-of-way agent, and also Stacy. So our whole team is here tonight. We on January 4th, we did meet with the Roosevelt City Planning and Zoning Committee. At that time, we presented the plat map along with answering questions in terms of the Bonanza 2 project, which briefly is a 138 kV transmission line that will be increasing, will be bringing 100 megawatts of power from the Bonanza power plant south of Vernon, Utah, to our proposed pole line substation in South Roosevelt City. At that time, we answered questions that the committee had, and upon explanations, the committee did move to recommend approval of this lot line adjustment. If any of you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those that you may have.
The only one main question that I have, so the property, these lot line, or not lot line adjustments, but these minor subdivisions would be property owners deeding Moonlight property, so it's not an easement, you're gonna own the property, is that correct? And so there's 3 parcels involved, 3 property owners involved, and then they're deeding Moonlight that portion of property that they own that you utilize.
Correct. So out of their existing properties, we will be purchasing a portion of that. And we, from, 3 property owners from Lanny and Kathy Ross, and from Dale and Vicki Rasmussen, and from Kent Ivy. And we have real estate contracts signed and all completed with them. We're just waiting to finalize this process with Roosevelt City Planning and Zoning, and then with this body and this entity, Roosevelt City Council. And then we will move forward with purchasing portions of that property, which will then be what is the minor subdivision with the lot line adjustment.
There are some right of ways that we are acquiring, but the majority, all of the lot alignment is properties that we're purchasing from private owners.
On this plat, there are some easements that we have already acquired, that all of the easements necessary for this plat have been.
Excellent. Any other questions from the council?
Mayor, it said here in the letter that you met February 18, 2020. The planning and zoning then recommended with the 5 conditions. Are you still planning to meet those conditions? Is that part?
So as you look on the plat to the west, on the west side of Moonlight's property, there off of State Street, we have, you guys required that we have a apron coming off of State Street. You also requested a stipulation to show where the road would be located, which is the horizontal, the 33-foot road there, how it will be located on our existing property, on the existing property. And then the turnaround on the west side of the substation, with a 7-foot radius that will allow access for emergency vehicles to be able to come in and out of the piece of property. And you also requested that Moon Lake, if curb and gutter ever came in with improvements coming down that road, that we would do our part in front of our piece of property and participate, whether it was financially or whatever the needs were, we would do that. And Moon Lake has agreed with that. And if one has escaped me.
Just like side obscuring fence.
Yeah,
The
a
what?
little bit fence.
Oh, the fence, yeah, the fence
Surrounding
around the substation, yeah, just like we have with all of our substations, standard, yes,
Right. Okay, thank you.
And Drew,
with slats.
just to make sure that with any conditional use, those conditional uses have to be spelled out. Meaning we can't dictate more or less, but those are within the purview of the conditional use.
Yes, they are, and, sorry, let me just add, as these parcels of property would be acquired with the already existing parcels, the Planning and Zoning Commission made by resolution that the criteria of the conditional use would apply to those 3 parcels as well as a
Okay.
whole. So they would have to use a specific condition for those 3 parcels that all just be inclusive. So
Drew, there's no zoning issues there, right? I mean, it's the zone,
it is a conditional use for the zone,
so,
which was taken care of in 2020
okay.
through this body and planning and zoning, and all the conditions are noted in both planning and zoning and here now. Everybody's in agreement. So as far as planning and zoning is concerned, it's still good to go.
Great. Any other questions?
I have one more question. Curb and gutters part of that, if they end up doing a sidewalk through there, is that something, I mean, is that included in that?
Yes.
That was included in the stipulation from the 2020 meeting, yes.
I move we approve then.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Any further discussion?
Not a question, but just for the record, I have a conflict where I work up in Mike's Fall. Excuse myself for voting on.
Okay. And we did have a second by Councilman White, is that correct? Or Barry?
Yeah, I'll second it.
I heard somebody.
It was me. I think that was you.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
So we have the Mylar plat here there. It has been signed by all of those that are required, the property owners that are selling portions of their property. The planning and zoning chairman. You'll make your Johnson, and so we just
A
need.
lot of signatures.
Where they were each made by resolution through the planning and zoning commission for each parcel of property as individual through the instructions for each.
You know what, it wouldn't hurt. So yes. And it would be nice to specify, if you could amend your motion to specify each, I don't know that we need independent motions, but at least to specify each parcel number. What do you think, Grant?
I think it's fine either way.
Let's just specify each parcel number.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion to include the parcel lot numbers. Parcel 0000312987, parcel 0000326850, and parcel 0000321580.
Okay, and do we still have a second, Councilman Baird?
Yes.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, put that on record. Okay, Gordon. Thank you. I don't see where I'm supposed to sign here.
I think it's questionable, Mayor.
Oh goodness, I've never seen this many signatures.
Moonlight would like to thank the city council.
You guys have been great to work with.
Yeah, we thank
I
you
know
too.
This is part of the project of the, the language coming through and everything else, and appreciate the vision and effort and
Yeah,
We want to thank you guys all, and you've been really great, and especially your planning and zoning committee, and especially Drew Eschler and Sunshine, and they helped us a lot with to get this all corrected in the order that we needed, so we appreciate everybody's help.
it's good to
thank
hear.
you. Yeah, that was good to hear.
And here's this.
Thank you.
Another, sorry.
I can fix it.
Excellent. Okay, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is a resolution for our road project.
You missed the Mike Twain.
Oh, Mike. You know, why don't you come up, Mike, and then I'm gonna amend our schedule just a little bit, because we're gonna allow Craig to go right after Mike, because he's got another appointment.
I came to the city council a while back and talked about doing a long-term lease for a piece of property right behind my house that's on a golf course. And he told me to get with Josh and get everything figured out. I'd like to lease 30 feet. It says 35, but 30 or 35 feet, whichever is agreeable there, on a long-term lease. Josh, we work everything out. I just need to come get it.
We have a lease agreement for,
No, at this point, you brought this up, and this is the plat they submitted for council. The council we have not drafted an agreement or anything.
No agreement's been drafted.
No, this is if council wanted us to, we could draft something, but it's
so
up to council if they want to decide to do this.
what are the goods and the bads and the uglies? As far as, so we have, obviously Mike wanting to lease the space, we have recommendations from staff for, not to put y'all on the spot.
So the one thing I'll say is you can see I'm based off where the property's at. Long-term leases, they do occur, typically I've seen 99-year leases. It is a way for the city to essentially give that, not give, but allow the person to have that property for life without actually giving up the property. So they can happen. There's goods and bads about both. There's differing opinions from councils of whether or not it's something they want to enter into or not. Because we are essentially giving up our rights to that property. Even though it's a 99-year lease, it acts similar to us actually selling the property or he'll have. So some of the things to keep in mind here is, as you can see on the screen, where we have all the sheds, we know at one point in time, we're gonna need extra parking for the golf course. Aaron, sooner than later?
Last year.
But this is the logical place for more parking, but we do have sheds there, we need to figure out what we're doing with those. So there's a lot of things to consider as council of whether or not you're comfortable giving up this land here. It is towards the back. Really, this is truly a policy decision. Can we work on it with the parking in the sheds? If council decides to go this way, absolutely. Can we use this as parking one day? Sure, we can. It could go both ways. We do have our golf pro here if you want some of his opinions as well. Public works directors here, we got opinions as well. Put you on the spot as well.
Yeah, this is the first I've seen of this. When I heard long-term lease, I got a little bit worried. I mean, shorter-term lease, I'd be more comfortable with, just in case we do grow that way and need that space. So definitely something to consider, but for the time being, a few years to come, I don't see it being an issue at all.
My plans for it, I just want more concrete. I'm tired of the weeds back there. I mean, that's my idea, is I want more concrete than park my trailers on. So I mean, it's not like it's a permanent structure or anything.
Well, I have a question. Now, is this just for your trailer that's parked there?
I had 2 trailers parked there,
Oh,
and that's,
okay.
and I mean, Steve, Nelson, and I already keep the weeds down.
Yeah.
There's some reasons.
Well, I'm just thinking, me personally, I know it looks like this is landscape, but I don't know how usable that area is. Did you pour cement there?
It's not useful at this time.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of landscaping and changes to do it. And then we also need to get the finalization on the right of way
Yeah, no, I would like to think before the council
at the same time.
about the same time that I think you mentioned this briefly when that came. I think that was the last time we've probably seen, well, I've seen her.
Yeah.
But, so did we or did we not? I thought that we had.
We haven't done anything on that. Steve was
On the right of way.
on the right of way. Steve was supposed to get with somebody to get it surveyed.
From my understanding, I think that Steve brought in a document that showed that the right of way did actually exist and it's already approved. Is that not correct?
So it wasn't spelled out as far as the easement goes. It was a little vague as far as what he has. We were wanting to maybe plan out what we're doing with that parking lot, if we're gonna build structures or whatever. But he was guaranteed that he's still gonna have access because it was more of a verbal agreement with city council than on paper.
And I know we had talked, we've already been in communication with Aaron a little while ago, but we've been talking about what we're gonna do with the sheds back there. How we're gonna, finagle those, adjust those, and then also the parking. And so there are quite a few moving parts, I think, that are kind of being talked about. And go ahead.
We are at capacity right now where our sheds are, so we are gonna have to start looking at any of that open space that you see there. It really starts from the back sheds here back towards that property that's kind of highlighted.
Can
Not
those sheds-
necessarily going there, but you can see that open space there. That's where our future sheds are gonna have to go.
The sheds on the right there, can they be moved easily if we needed to move them back so we could use that for parking? Or are we gonna have to leave them there and just adjust and put parking in the
They're
back?
mobile.
They're mobile.
Yeah, they're
There's storage shed.
So I know, but I mean, we don't have any, we can move them if we need to, or are they ours?
Oh, no, they're not.
Right, so we would have, I'm just wondering if people would probably need to contact, hey, we need to move these, and you don't move them, we'll move them eventually.
Right.
Because the parking there makes more sense than putting it further back.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. There's not a lot of, I don't know how to put this. With the sheds themselves, there's not a lot of oversight in the sheds, I guess, and they are getting quite old, and there are some issues and some things that we might need to address there, but that's a different subject. Well, but with the matter, and from what I'm hearing from staff, a little bit is probably best for now to hold off until we understand exactly how we're gonna utilize the rest of that piece. Is that what I'm hearing? If that's the staff recommendation.
That would be my recommendation, at least for mayor and council to come up and look at the area and kind of get a feel for it. Before you make any decisions.
It's not a no, it's just a, well, and not, we haven't voted either, and then the councilman could motion otherwise.
I would move to table it to get more information, maybe look at it and, cause at this point, I don't wanna not help Mike out, but at the same token, I don't see the advantage to us to leasing it. And if we're gonna need to get parking in there, I kinda like to address those other sheds too, maybe, and if we could find out how many are being used and if they're, what's the chance of maybe moving them back and providing parking up there. Because to me, it makes more sense to put it closer to the road than down there by Mike's house. But I don't know.
So,
Any permanent structure that you would put back there would limit our access that's, we've already discussed.
and that's another point. I think we ought to identify where that access is gonna go and how that's gonna work.
Right.
Before we enter into a lease. I think we solved one issue before we maybe create another one that we can't, but anyway, it'll affect in a negative way, something that we're trying to do in the future, so.
Like I've heard a lot of agreements, between council and people that haven't held when new councils came in and stuff. So I agree with JR, we should, or with the mayor, we should get that in place for you, just so that it's solid.
Yeah.
For us, just so that we don't conflict later on when we decide to do some other things with that area.
So do we have a motion to that effect, maybe table?
That's what I just motioned, I thought.
So, but and if I could finish, also, just make sure that we're making a good faith effort to get those other things done, so that it's not an indefinite amount of time that we're actually working towards, getting a plan up there and how it's gonna all work out, and then we can get you an answer quicker. So
I'll amend my motion to include that, Mayor. I don't want to say all that, but
okay.
I'll amend it that we do, and that's really what I was saying, is let's get the information, let's see what we're gonna do with that, and that way, whatever going forward, it will be in place and we'll know where we're at, and then if we can help Mike out, great. If we can't, then we'll know then, but,
Can we put a timeline on that? So
That's hard to put a timeline on.
I know it is, but I mean, I don't want to be sitting in limbo at the new city council in 4 years or whatever.
That'd be better for me, because I won't be here. That's up to the council if they want to put a timeline on it. I don't know how.
Because I hate calling Josh like every other day and.
Yeah.
he doesn't mind.
That's a good idea.
Does anybody want to entertain?
Another amendment? I'm happy with my motion. If someone wants to make a friendly amendment to put a timeline, that's fine, but I think with all the snow and stuff right now, it's kind of hard right now anyway, but I think it's definitely something we should address by the spring, I would think, once we get a chance to get in there and look at it and have Kirby and Aaron and anyone else that needs to look at it.
How about we at least task the staff with, by the 1st of March, we'll have at least a pretty good idea of a plan, with what we want to see with buildings, and that'll give us a couple months, 6 weeks, or maybe a little more, 8 weeks to kick it around and make a game plan.
One thing,
And that doesn't need to be part of the motion, that's just in general.
one thing to keep in mind when we're talking about moving the sheds around, I wasn't there when, I didn't live up there, but Steve has mentioned that when those sheds were up against the fences, it was just trashy and nasty back behind, and that's why they were moved out like they are, is to avoid that situation, so that might be something to look at when you're looking at moving those sheds to different
Maybe we
locations.
move them all together. But yeah, that's definitely something to consider. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second. Second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Mike. Great, let's get you going to, thank you. Sorry, no, you're in time, great.
You're good. I want to talk about the Innovation Hub project. Well, first of all, I gotta say thanks to everybody that's helped with this. We got Sunshine, Rhonda, and Ryan and Josh. They're all really great to work with. And I feel like they've done a phenomenal job. We're meeting about once a week as we got into the design and I feel like we come up with pretty sound design. Now, I guess what we're bringing before the council is we'd like to put this out for bid. We need your approval to do that. The project, what we have in the contract documents right now is that the project will take approximately 180 days from the time we hire a contractor to finish. We'd like to get that, so we'd like to get that done this summer. So the plan is to hold it, if it's approved, we'll advertise, starting tomorrow and have a pre-bid meeting on the 2nd. We'll have bids due on the 9th of February. And one effort that I meant to make personally is it seems like lately, because the economy the way it has been, that it's difficult to get bidders on projects in many cases. And so what I found successful is to make calls to contractors that I know that would fit this type of a project and request they bid on it and ask that of them. I don't think that just advertising it out there on the web or in the newspaper is necessarily good enough. So I'll commit to making calls and trying to get as many interested folks as I can in bidding on this remodel. But that's the plan we have. But anyways, if you'd like, we can go through the drawings or whatever you'd like us to do.
Absolutely. I don't think we've had a lot of input from the council on this. And so, any of the council think this is one?
I mean, talked about, I don't
Yeah,
know, there's been a lot
Yeah.
of changes made from what we've seen before, but this looks a little more detailed.
This is more detailed. We saw it when we went for the grant. That was the concept. Right? We did have Councilman Busenmark in on one of our meetings one time.
I happened to come by and they were just meeting, so I gave in my 2 cents. That's probably all it was
You got
worth.
lucky.
2 cent picture now. Right? So the idea on this sheet right here, the proposed floor plan is probably of the most interest to you, is to take the library building it's basically a shell, and we're going to modify the restrooms to be a little bit larger, just so that they meet the ADA requirements. We've been in communication with Dean, just so you know, the building official. He's made some suggestions on this. We're adding drinking fountains in there. And then basically we have open space in the middle with a few desks and some lounge type areas for collaborative type of business. And then you have private offices all the way around the perimeter. The framing between the offices is planned to be, sheetrock walls. The front of the offices planned to be open glass. So let some light in. We're adding a skylight above basically in the center of the room. It's going to add natural lighting in there, and around the offices we have 8-foot tall walls with acoustic tile drops ceiling over the.
That's how you get the HVAC in.
There you go. HVAC is currently in the floor, but anyway, yeah,
That was one of the major issues we were looking at when we were dividing all of that.
that'd work. So anyway, that's what we plan to do. There's a conference room up in the northeast corner there. And then the current kitchen area or whatever, where there's a sink it's gonna be a break room. We're gonna utilize that. But anyways, that's basically the project. We are doing one exterior feature, and that's to try to make it blend in with the new library a little bit, and that's by adding a little awning over the entryways, front and back, just a flat awning. If you wanna, yeah, you can kind of see it there on the cover page. You can see where you're adding this section, right? This right here.
So do you have an engineer's estimate of what you think it will cost?
Yeah, the estimate we put together was, and we went forward with funding, was $318,000. That was in 21, so it's a little bit older now. So if it goes with inflation, and let's just say we have maybe let's be conservative, say a 20% increase, we might be reaching up to 380. The nice thing about this is, if you want to, right, can you switch to that bid schedule? Nice thing about this is you go through these items, the way the contract documents are set up is you can remove from the contract or from the bid if there's items that are too expensive that we can't afford. This type of bid schedule makes it easy to say, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut number 14 out of the bid. And so you can cut it out and pick and choose items that you have. So if you decide, hey, I can't afford to put new carpet in, then we can take that bid item out. Makes sense. And I honestly feel like we're probably going to end up doing some of that. But I'm just trying to be realistic. But if everything goes as planned, $320,000 and we got the innovation.
Any other questions? This is just a motion to move forward with bidding. Any other questions for Craig?
How big is the building?
It's yeah, let's see, it's a 60 base, it's 61 by 61, so it's pretty much square. Let me just double check here on the plans.
6,400.
That's sound about right. It's 68 by 68, so yeah, what is that?
Very close to the 71,
46, 24.
68 by 60. Oh, yeah. I think they can go.
46, 24. So
49. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's gonna serve the purpose well. Those offices are nice sized offices, And I think, what do we get, 12 or 13?
13. That's what I counted. Yeah.
So,
Great.
anyway,
Well, we appreciate all your hard work on this. This is an exciting thing for our community, I believe. Council, you have any other questions for Craig?
No, we move forward.
We have a motion to move forward with the bidding process. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Cloward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Craig.
thank
Yeah,
you.
Appreciate you being here. Tell Ballard hi for us.
I will.
Mayor, if you got my email about the gun range.
Okay.
If you text me when you get there, let me know.
Will do.
I'm serious. All right, we have Janet with us tonight. Jeanette. Oh, we're trying to get you live here, Jeanette. You can hear us. We can't hear you for whatever reason.
No, oh yeah, she does.
Sorry, Jeanette, we still can't hear you.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we have you loud and clear. So Jeanette's gonna walk us through some of these resolutions tonight, make sure that we're doing them appropriately. We have several. We have the road project that we're going to talk about tonight, and then we have the sports complex. And so the first one we'll talk about is the parameters resolution for the road project. And who's going to head that up for us?
Am I in charge here?
I lost my notes, Josh.
Okay. Jeanette can probably help you out more than I can on this, but we have the parameters resolution for the road project. And the resolution is authorizing not more than $400,000 in principal amount of excise tax road revenue bond in one or more series for road improvement and related improvements, provided that the publication of the notice of a public hearing and bonds to be issued, fixing the maximum aggregate principal amount, maturity, interest rate, and discount on the bonds and related matters. So basically, what needs to happen today, this is of course on the State Street project, which we have already received some DOT funding. We have already committed to the city's portion of this, and this is the portion due to inflation that we went to CIB to finish that project. So.
And so the motion, I think would need to include what you just read.
Yes, we need to make sure that we have a public hearing, which we would like to put in place for February, what day is that? The February meeting will be 14th, 17th.
We're doing it the first meeting in February, the second.
I believe the second was the plan.
So the 14th? Well, the 14th would be the first.
So we're actually, in the notice, on that public hearing for February 21st.
Yeah.
Just gives me a little bit of time to get posted to the paper more than 14 days prior to the hearing. Does that work for you guys?
Yes, that works. Yeah.
Okay, and then that public hearing will also include the road bond project and the sports complex by the city council and the.
Sure. Excellent. So, any questions on that? This is, I mean, we've had several discussions on it, so.
I move we approve the resolution authorizing not more than $400,000 in principal amount of excise tax road revenues bonds in one or more series for road improvements and related improvements, providing for the publication of a notice of public hearing and bonds to be issued, fixing the maximum aggregate principal amount, maturity, interest rate, and discount on the bonds and related matters. Is that correct? For February 21st.
Yes. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey, just real quick, one point of interest, it will need to have a roll call vote of each council member.
Okay.
Just yea or nay.
Councilman Lusenberg.
Yay.
Councilman White.
Yay.
Councilman Barry.
Yay.
Councilman Flower.
Yay.
And Councilman Allen.
Yay.
The vote is unanimous.
Moving right along, we go to the parameters resolution for the sports complex. And Jeanette might be able to explain this a little bit better, but we actually have two resolutions regarding the sports complex, which pertain to the municipal building authority, which of course is the council. So the first resolution is this is the city council giving the housing authority, correct? authorization for this.
Correct, yeah, the city council always needs to act to authorize your building authority to take action. And so there's always, in that process, always two things. The city council will authorize a resolution, and then, the building authority will then authorize the resolution as a result of receiving the authorization from the city council.
Okay. So basically, all we need is a councilman to read the resolution which authorizes the building authority to do so.
And we might mention that the amount shown on
Yes.
here, which is 4.3 million, is not a mistake. It's just that if we were over even $1, we would have to completely redo everything, so it is always inflated. The intention is not for this to be 4.3.
Correct, and we do clarify that in the notice of public hearing that, the maximum amount authorized is 4.3 million at 0.5% for 25 years. And then we detail that, however, the lender or the purchaser, CID, is authorizing 3.2, 3,220,000 at 20 years at 0.5%. And what that impact will be. The higher dollar value in the parameters resolution is a requirement of the purchaser. And just recently, in the last year, we've learned that only adding 25% to the authorized value hasn't been working very well for several clients, so it's come back much higher. And so they had to restart the entire process again at a higher dollar value. And so these numbers in the parameters resolution for the road project and the building authority is simply to kind of hopefully not have to start this process all over if it's come back higher than the authorized value, so that we can move forward with the project rather than starting all the documentation over again.
So just to clarify, we need a motion to, for the resolution of the parameters resolution, then we need to go to building in as a building authority and then make a motion to approve that as well. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so I think the first motion is to authorize the building authority to enter into and to call a public hearing. And then the second one would be acting as the building authority to make the resolution to approve the funds and.
Okay. If I just read this and make my motion, am I okay, or do we have?
Yeah, but I do have one other item that I think we may have missed, and that is we don't have any resolution numbers associated with these. Did you have those?
We have them.
Yes.
Yeah, can I have, because that will have to be part of your motion,
Okay.
Councilman Luzenbark, especially in that first one. So this one is for, so we'll need you to motion that resolution number and have that associated to that motion.
So do I need to go back on the previous motion?
You can amend your motion.
Okay, so I need to amend the motion for the authorizing not more than 400,000 in principal amount of excise tax road revenue bonds motion to include the resolution number of 2023-310.
Correct. And do we have a second to that amendment?
Second.
Second by Councilman Allen, and roll call, Councilman Roosevelt,
Yay.
Councilman White. Yay. Councilman Barry.
Yay.
Councilman Cloward.
Yay.
And Councilman Allen.
Yay.
Okay, now we got it right. Now we're good. Now the next one will be just right, so.
We're learning, but we'll get through this. All right, so then I will move that a resolution of the Municipal Building Authority of Roosevelt City, Utah, calling a public hearing and authorizing notice of intention to use not more than 4.3 million of lease revenue bonds for the acquisition and construction of a new fourplex sports field complex and related improvements, fixing the maximum interest rate, maturity and discount of the bonds and related matters. And this is resolution number.
Sorry, Don, that's
Yep,
that's the building authority resolution
Oh.
you want to read.
Did I grab the wrong one?
Yeah. So it'll be,
That one will be next.
Yeah.
First, you have to give the building authority.
No, that's the same one.
well, it's similar.
Oh, okay, sorry. So let me amend my motion to be a resolution approving the adoption by the Municipal Building Authority. Is that correct now?
Yes.
Of Roosevelt City, Utah parameters resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not more than 4.3 million lease revenue bonds for the acquisition and construction of a new fourplex sports complex and related improvements and related matters for resolution number 2023-001.
Okay.
Did I get all that right now?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Cloward. Councilman Bismarck, how do you vote?
Yay.
Yay. Councilman Baird?
Yay.
Councilman Cloward?
Yay.
And Councilman Allen?
Yay.
Vote is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, now I need
Now
to,
we're authorized as.
do we need to go into building like we do in anything
I
else?
don't know that we would, but Grant, where we've authorized the building authority to act, now do we need through resolution? Okay. So we'll need to make a motion to act as the building authority.
Okay, I move that we act as a building authority for the city of Roosevelt.
Second. Second by Councilman White, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll consider ourselves acting as the building authority of Roosevelt.
Okay, now as the acting building authority, if I get this right, I move that a resolution of the Municipal Building Authority of Roosevelt City, Utah, calling a public hearing and authorizing notice of intention to issue not more than 4.3 million of lease revenue bonds for the acquisition and construction of a new fourplex sports field complex and related improvements, fixing the maximum interest rate, maturity and discount of bonds and related matters, following resolution number 2023-001.
Okay, we have the motion. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman White. How do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman White? Yay. Councilman Baird? Yay. Councilman Cloward?
Yay.
And Councilman Allen?
Yay.
Unanimous.
Can I just ask a clarifying question real quick?
Yes.
This one, the city council acted to authorize, that sounded like that was resolution number 2023-001. And then I think I heard the same number for the building authority. Would that simply be a like 2023-01-MBA or MBA in front of
I
that?
didn't have the numbers on mine. Did we get the wrong numbers?
I can look at them, I could go back to these numbers, because it should be, the building authority one, I think should actually be 001. Because we don't have any prior to
Okay,
this,
so the building is 001. I need to amend my previous motion to be,
the 310 and the 311 should be our,
Yeah, it should be.
should be
I
our
didn't have those numbers.
resolution as council.
Yeah, mine didn't have numbers, but I remember I printed the packet out, so. So what number did I give you for the road? Was that the 310? So then the other one, I'll amend my, resolution before to be 311, right?
So 311 is the building authority, authorizing the building authority.
Okay, I apologize, I didn't have that number in front of me, so
Yeah. So
we need to start over again, I think. I think so, as a city, do we need to go back to city council? Or- Sorry, Grant, I don't know legalese.
So what we'll do is because basically all that we're associating with the resolution to authorize the building authority is resolution 2023-311. Is that?
Right, that's what I want to amend my motion to be 2023-311.
Because we made that motion as the city council, but and I think it's a technicality at this point, so we don't have to go through it.
Just tell her the right number.
Yes, so Jeanette, it's 2023-311 for the authorization for the building authority, and it's 2023-001 for the resolution acting as the building authority to move forward.
Correct. with it. Thank you so much.
And I think everything else,
Sorry, I didn't have the numbers in front of me. I would have read.
absolutely good. Okay, I think that takes care of that portion. Is there anything else you need, Janet, from us?
Jeanette, is there anything else?
I see, keep saying Janet, but Jeanette.
That's okay. I can't spell my name, so I don't.
I have a habit of renaming people anyway, so.
Yeah, she's not here tonight either.
Well, thanks, Jeanette, so much for being here with us and walking us through this, and look
Yes.
forward to working with you in the future and wrapping this up in a little over a month.
Yeah, I always tell everybody, my whole job, what I get paid for is to make this as easy as possible for your team there and city council, so that's what I'm here for. Happy to help.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette.
All right.
We
Rob,
need to come out of.
yeah, so let's take a motion back
I
to,
move we go back to regular council meeting.
motion in the second by Councilman Allen, all in favor? Any opposed? Moving on. Progress assessment. Mr. Bake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is what we do every year. I'm just gonna read a little bit about what this program is. This program is outlined and designed to help to measure and reduce the risk of undetected fraud, abuse, and non-compliance in local governments of all types and sizes. This assessment is the starting point. It is the hope that the office, that local governments will add to it and adapt this forum to improve how they manage their internal controls and the risk of fraud, waste, and abuse. So each year, we take a look at our internal controls, what we have, and we have to assess ourselves, to give ourselves a score of how we're doing and what we've done, how we can improve. So it's on a score of 355 and below. We ranked at 335 after going on everything that rates us at low, which is a really good place to be. There are certain ones like, does the entity have a licensed CPA on staff? We're not large enough to have that, so we immediately lose 20 points right there. So 395 is a perfect score with everything. But for our size of community, 335 and ranking low is quite proper and quite nice to have that score. So what we've done is we submitted this to the state auditor's office and we asked the council approved to send this on. Do we have any questions?
Can you just scroll down a little bit? I was looking at the, so that page, we got the top line, it's 200 points for meeting the criteria on the next worksheet. And then on the next worksheet, you had one that was a no instead of a yes. Is that the appropriate answer or is that not met there? I'm just curious. On number 3.
No, that is correct. That is no.
Is there, is there room for that?
It should be under mitigating controls as well. Because we have controls in place to do that. Anyone after that, not that? Yeah, it's one based off our size and our abilities to mitigate those controls as best we can.
So, do you know how we scored last year?
I believe it was the same,
It was.
335.
Last year it was significantly higher than it had been in years prior to that.
Do we get an award for that?
We can give ourselves a
Yes, you
We can
can.
give Rhonda and Josh and the rest of that.
Yeah, nice job.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Yeah. I move we approve.
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
it. Aye.
Second by Councilman Baird, sorry. And any opposed? Unanimous.
I have the next item.
Okay, continue, Mr. Bake.
So the next you have Placer AI in front of you. We've talked about this for a couple months. There have been 2 companies that we've been looking at. One is rather expensive, rather large. The other is smaller, but more hands-on. So what this is, it's an economic development tool that communities can have. And I'm going to read just a couple of things of how civic leaders use Placer. Retail recruitment, we get leakage reports, void analysis to target best retailers, drive revenues while supporting local businesses. We provide insights for marketing, get to know the true trade area of the area, get to know the right retail mix. Leakage, void analysis, tourism analysis. We can use the software to find out what benefit these events are having, like the 4th of July. We have fireworks, we're gonna find out how many of those individuals that come to this activity are from Roosevelt, how many are from the basin, how many are from out of state. This service, they actually use cell phone data, it's quite
Big brother.
Big Brother on how they do it, but it is also very accurate. And so this is something we can
Which
use
is
for
the
our
most
tool.
important tool.
It really is. So the service is $14,000 a year. We have it budgeted this year. With council approval, we'd like to move forward. One reason we chose this provider over the other one is they actually have regular trainings that they give you. We all know there's a lot of businesses out there that will give you a lot of data dump. We don't want just data dump. We want to know how to use the software to better utilize it to benefit our community. So that's why we've selected Placer AI as our preferred economic development tool.
And you vetted them pretty well, right, if I remember right? Because
Yes.
we talked about them before, and then you went back to get a little more information.
Yeah, and actually, I've had multiple phone calls, and I did meet one of their VPs in person.
Okay.
So
It's all constitutional.
it is, even though it is very Big Brother-ish, it is.
Seems like we've done something similar to this multiple times. None of it was an ongoing thing, but to me, I feel like I really don't, I think there was benefit to the other ones that we did, but unless we continue, you're losing the majority of the benefit that you do to have that analysis. So,
And one thing to clarify that, so before I got here, the city paid for a leakage report from Zions Bank, so we had that. And it was just a data dump, to be honest. We do have a contract right now with Intermountain Economic Consulting, Thomas Winterson's group, and we still have that. We're working with them on actually recruiting retail. We have a committee meeting on Thursday where he's gonna be presenting the findings on that. This is an additional tool on top of that, that again, the key is we need to use it or it's a waste of money. And that is another reason why we chose the more economical one. The other one might be better and we might get a lot more benefit, but if we don't use it, it doesn't do us any good. So one of the reasons I had was we use this one. If we find out that there's so much benefit, but they're not quite giving us all we could use, we can look at going to the bigger one. But we need to make sure we're gonna use it first. This one trains us how to use it. And I absolutely agree with you, if we're not using it, it's a waste and very unbeneficial, but it needs to be an ongoing thing that we make part of our regular routine of using.
just my thought.
Great. I just have a question. I remember when we were going over this year's budget, this was, when we discussed this thing, I remember talking about this idea. Was it this program that we were talking about? So we've already got it discussed.
Yes, it was already in the budget, yes.
Okay, yeah. Just making sure it's the same.
Same thing, different day.
So we're actually in a better point because last year we budgeted, we planned on for the full fiscal year. This way we're only paying for 6 months out of this year's budget. So we'll actually have some savings.
So is it gonna be 14,000 for 6 months or?
It'll be a year. So the next year will just start next January.
Fiscal year.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, since you recommend, I move we approve.
Any other motion to approve?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Allen. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
And I will say, this is one where I would happily share this with council, and I will do reports periodically at council meeting, so you can see what benefit we are getting from it. But at any time, I would encourage you, if you're interested to see what the data is showing us, especially with some of our events, as we know we like to have family-friendly events, we want to make sure that there's benefit there, so please feel free to contact me on those.
I would plan on presenting it sometime in the future.
Thanks, Mr. Bake. Mrs. Goodrich.
Okay, so, the next item that we have is a little maybe unconventional, that we are asking for consideration of a, employee salary increase, which is mid-year. And I think you take over the down, please. I don't really need to probably talk a whole lot about inflation. Everybody knows what's going on, but I wanted to explain a couple of things. The first article that I just gave you a copy of there was written in April of this last year, 2022, just showing that although inflation nationwide had gone up 8.5%, at that point in time, Utah's inflation was at 10.4, trending up much higher than the rest of the nation. And then on the second page there's just a couple of examples that they had given in that article about what price increases we had seen for things like fruit and bacon and butter, peanut butter, and those types of things. And then, interestingly enough, although there is a slight downtrend, if you look, this came from Mike Lee's office from the Joint Economic Committee, and basically the blue line on the top is Utah, and the red line on the bottom is the nation. And we are considerably higher. And basically what that tells you is that the average family is paying over $900 a month more for the same goods and services that they purchased in January of 2021. So we're talking, there are several communities around us that have done some mid-year increases. Brock has done some calling around to other cities about our size and found that they had either given a significant increase with the fiscal year, or they were looking at doing some potentially even mid-year increases. I know that Duchesne and Vernal, I believe, have both just done kind of a rather unconventional thing, if I understand right, and given across the board increases like $2 an hour. $1 an hour, or whatever it was that they gave, which is kind of an unusual way to do that. But with the 2.5%, we'd be looking at needing to increase our budget by about $68,000. And one of the things that Brock and I had talked about with this consideration is, as we all know, the Uinta Basin is a little bit unique in that we're starting to see things are getting busy with the oil and gas industry here. And that's wonderful, other than it's also they're very high paying jobs. Those of us who've been in that industry know it can be feast or famine in a hurry. But at the same time, with the current challenges that people have with inflation, it's extremely expensive for the city to have a long term. Really, retention is such a major thing. And what I don't want us to do is I don't want us to just keep giving increases to where it's not sustainable. But this 2.5% would bring us up. We gave 6% to everybody with the fiscal year, which would bring everybody up to the 8.5 or 2.5 to 2.9% is what we're thinking. Social Security recipients just got 8.7. That just was kind of the area, the 2.5 to 2.9% increase. So it was just something we thought we would bring to you and see how you were feeling about that. And, you know, it may be if we do this at this point, COLA raises may not be something that we could do for a while. It just depends on what the economy is doing in the future. Because I don't want us to ever get to the place where we're just throwing money to keep people and then we say, whoops, you know what, this is not sustainable, let's start laying people off. That's not the ideal thing. And so this is just a smaller increase that we were hoping might bring people a little more whole.
Any questions or thoughts?
This is a hard one for me, mid-year. Just because I work for government and I know our increase, like I still haven't got an increase since last January. Well, I just barely got it, and it was 4%. I'm not saying that it should be the same, but it just seems hard to, and I've noticed since I've been on the council for 5 years, every year that we've done a COLA every single year, and it's been substantially more than what I would get in my government job, so. That's the only red flag I see. I think that we can make it happen, we can live on whatever income we receive. I get the high turnaround thing, it doesn't make a difference. So I don't know, those are my thoughts.
Any other thoughts?
So your suggestion is 2.5% on top of what they're currently making? And you have budget for that?
It would require an increase.
So we would have to open the budget, which we'd have to do at another time, right, next meeting or whatever?
So I'll chime in my thought. I think more along the lines of Dave Baird. Just opening the budget mid-year we did give, I think the highest that we've given up to this point or this year has been 3 or 3.5%. Am I incorrect in that? I've only been here I know it's been as low as 2%, but yeah, it's been every year there's been an increase. The highest was this year at 6%. My personal feeling is I'm not disagreeing with what Ron is presenting. However, what I am saying is that there is an increase that needs to happen. It probably should coordinate or correlate with our upcoming budget and to anticipate the increase happening. So instead of the normal 3% that we might do on a normal year, we do 5 or 5.5% and consider something like that. But I just have a little bit of angst opening the budget up for increases after we get a very substantial increase at the beginning of the year and then opening up again. It probably will work out the same other than for 5.5 months that, the employees would lose out a little bit, but for public perception's sake and things like that, I think it would go over a lot better with the public. So that would be my input.
I understand the turnaround thing, because it's difficult hiring people, and you probably are going to start losing people to the oil field because it's going to be a crazy year. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the other end where if this 2% is going to retain people, maybe it's worth it.
And I might just add this in that, something this week just alone, well, the last week or two with like the snow that we've had in Roosevelt, right? We have had equipment breakdowns. We have had we've been against every possible scenario we could. We've got employees that have jumped in there, not even their department, welding on these machines, getting them up and running and helping us do the plowing. And it's just, we have a fabulous group of people. And I just, again, I don't know that there's any immediate threat of, hey, give me more, I'm leaving kind of a thing. It's really more a proactive thing that, Josh and Brock and I met and said, okay, this is something we can, just address. Maybe there's a potential there because we would have been in a pretty big world of hurt, right, Kirby? If we hadn't had the team that we do have. But they really have. They've been out at 2 a.m. on water breaks and plowing snow and I'm in awe. So.
And I'm not going to disagree with that at all. And I do understand where Rowdy's coming from with the oil and gas industry, but having been involved with government for as long as I had, one of the things that government employees have that the oil and gas employees do not is, to a large degree, is job security. The oil and gas industry comes and goes. It's good when it's good, and when it's not good, we all know it's not good. But for government employees, the stability and security and the government benefits and the insurances, and there's a lot, I guess, just comparing the two. I think the reason why we don't see a lot of turnover with our government employees, even when the oil and gas industry is booming, is because it's feast or famine with the oil and gas. And here, it's day in and day out, job security, taxes keep rolling in for the most part, and people keep their jobs. So there is a little bit, one thing that I look at as an employer is those types of benefits the employees experience. Work hours, they're not out, except for
Kirby.
These guys.
Yeah, the
And
water.
that guy. Okay, there. That's an educated statement, but yeah, so just kind of putting things in perspective, but.
I always like to err for the employees, but I also like what the mayor said about maybe anticipating that for the next budget year and maybe making sure that we address that by trying to do as much as we can, again, like we did this last year with the 6%. And, you know, if I think that would help, and that would, because otherwise, I think if we do it now, then we're not going to do as much on the next one because we're just not going to have, or maybe we can do a little larger one on the next fiscal year. And so I don't disagree with what's been said, and I always try to err on employees because I do appreciate the employees. I told Kirby we had at least one a nice comment about the roads and how hard they're working to keep them clear. And we, of course, it's been an unusual year with the snow and stuff, and you know that happens, and we're grateful for it because we do need the moisture for the water and stuff. But at the same token, it's a lot of work. But I would much rather try to give a bigger percentage on the next one and let employees know that we'll do as much as we can for them, as opposed to doing a little bit now and then a little bit later. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I have similar thoughts. But I think you're all great employed. I think you're worth it, and I'd love to, but open it up in the middle of budget cycle, have a little bit of hand with.
If there is a substantial, I know that the oil field has picked up significantly in the last year. And I know it may pick up even more, but like work at the agency that permits the wells that are being drilled, and I don't think we've seen that much of an increase over the last 3-4 months that would warrant like a need to protect our employee base from leaving, and unless something does happen, you know, so.
Well, one other thought too is, let's say in 2 months there is something, then we can address it then. This also gives a little bit of time to kind of look and see what's going to happen, because what the problem is right now is the economy is so unstable. We don't know when the bottom's going to drop and then everything's going to drop. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but I don't see how it can continue like it is. So it's just a very volatile thing, and I'm the type of person not to react too quickly, just to let things play out a little bit. Also make the appropriate changes when they're necessary, but I like to see things play out just a little bit, just to make sure. Sorry.
You know, you're good.
But I don't get a vote, and I don't get to make a motion, so I just get to say my 2 bits.
And I do really appreciate you guys as well.
Yes.
The others have said that. I want to make you appreciate you guys.
And we know that. There's no doubt. Again, this was a little unconventional and we knew that, but we just felt like it was something that we felt like we should do as the administrative staff on behalf of the employees. So.
It was definitely on our radar. Does anyone want to make a motion to any effect?
I don't want to, I would just say if something, I agree with Councilman Baird, if something comes up in the next couple of months with the mayor, then I'd say let's readdress it. But for now, I think we're good. And, you know, hopefully employees know we do care. And like I said, I'd rather give them a little bigger one in July possibly. That is better than giving a little bit now, and then July we're saying, oh, we can only do this much. And so, and I might also add that a 6 plus a 2.5 isn't actually an 8.5. It actually works out to 8.65 if you want the actual percentage yield versus the, but that doesn't matter. That's just a stupid math thing.
Thanks, Tom. So I don't think we need a motion to any effect, but we will definitely have it on our radar and anticipate
Thank you.
what's coming. Thanks, Rhonda. Making sure I'm not missing anything. The golf course pro shop contract. Eric, did we want to?
Yeah, there was a discussion before about going to a closed session. That's
Okay. Yeah. So we just, I guess, Brock and Josh wanted to update us on a couple of things. So ask for a closed session that would be, contract negotiation and, well, I guess just contract negotiation purposes would probably
Strategy session.
do strategy session, yeah. So,
I move we go into closed session to discuss contract and a strategy session regarding, do we need to say the golf?
The way that, just to paraphrase the way that it is in state code, it's a strategy session for negotiation of a lease.
Okay. So strategy, move we go to closed session for a strategy session for approval of a lease.
Okay.
If I said that correctly, hopefully.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, and technically we are supposed to do a roll call vote since Jeanette reminded me that, so.
Yay.
Councilman Busenbark, yay. Councilman White? Yay. Councilman Bear? So we'll consider ourselves back into open session. We are going to take a brief recess. We have some old gentlemen that. I'm just kidding. That's because we're not having their own music. Oh, goodness.
So is it, you said that on the recording, is it still official?
I don't know. We're gonna watch that out. Have you heard of
You know how old I am, Mayor? Me or him? Thank you.
How old are you? Well, I'm only 6 years older than you, actually.
I've heard you, so I'm just kidding. But I'm just, I just like to be controversial sometimes.
Keep my mouth shut.
Just make my job harder, it's fine.
Figure out where.
What did they do for you?
Yes, turn the door where.
I'm lost. I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to paint signs on the floor for you, aren't I? Give you a map. You might get a collar we would put on him so we don't lose it.
Looks like we have a quorum. Let's go ahead and proceed with our meeting. So the next agenda item, again, is the golf course contract. And so Aaron, we'll turn the time to you to present, and then I'm sure we'll have questions, and we'll just get from there. So, turn the time to you.
Did not present any money, but I appreciate you entertaining this contract. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. What questions, I guess, do you have on it?
That's good. Did,
Have you reviewed this contract?
has everyone reviewed the contract?
And one thing, since we're in open session, Aaron, just so you know, we have not, he's been presented with this contract, there's been no agreement on, there's still terms that need to be, there's still blanks. This is a template contract from our city attorney, not.
So let's just start with you, Aaron. You've read through it and everything. What are your thoughts?
There's some things I like, there's some things I don't like, some adjustments that I'd like to see, I guess. To me, the big thing is the rent of the lease that would be required.
What is being proposed? Because I read through it and I couldn't see an actual number.
Right now, it's just blank. So we've tossed around numbers, but it is blank.
And so you're saying
We assume low market value for whatever that is. What would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage low market value, from the comparisons that I've ran for other golf courses in the state. Majority of them are not paying a lease fee. The ones that are, they have a few things built into those agreements. Such as owning the cafe, or the city's pays the credit card fees, or things like that.
I think the biggest thing that because we don't have any experience with this, the biggest thing that we're trying to protect is that the city is not in a bigger hole if we do this than if we don't. And so we need to understand how that's gonna work, and I don't think anybody has that answer. So you may not get some straightforward answers from us, because that's where we're at.
Right.
We'd like to do it, but we don't know if we dare do it, or if it will affect negatively if it could be a positive too, but we just don't know.
Yeah.
Really a good approach. I think we started on that path, is just to go through kind of your punch list of what things that you see are good, things things you see are bad, and then as we look at these and we consider what you're asking and what that means, maybe the bottom line or whatever, then we can actually come to a resolution or fine tune the agreement. But if that's the way we decide to go, so you mentioned lease, but then you said something about the credit card fees.
So the Cedar City, Jared Barnes, he pays $500 a month lease down there, but he also owns the cafe.
Okay.
And then the city cuts him a check like every 2 weeks for all of his sales, but they also cover the credit card fees.
Okay.
So there's a lot of just different scenarios that are out there. That would definitely put the city in a financial bind. It would not be beneficial to the city to do something like that, in my opinion. So I wouldn't suggest that at all. In regards to your question, Councilman, I am going to be taking a significant salary, which will also, affect what's paid into, retirement. I don't know what that would be. So I could look at. And then, it will free up money the city has tied up in inventory and things like that. Really how successful and profitable will be up to me, I guess, and what happens there. But
What kind of impact will it have on your responsibility as the golf pro? I mean, it shouldn't, but if you can make more money at the pro shop, then it'd be kind of hard to pick up the poles there.
I agree with you. I feel like, having been here 7 years now, I feel like I've kind of proven myself where my commitment is, and that is definitely to the golf course, the public and community, of making that as successful as possible.
And don't get me wrong, we believe that, we see that, but this is just new water we're treading.
Yeah, and to an extent, I don't know if I can be there longer hours than I am right now, or, if you look at how often I'm there a lot, but to an extent, I believe this would keep me there, even a little bit more, having that money invested into it and personally tied to it, that, I believe I would be a little more invested, even more than I am, if that's possible.
Any other things, Aaron, that stuck out to you or jumped out at you when you were reading that?
One thing that I looked at today, I'm not sure exactly what section it's in, had to do with, keep going down if you don't mind, Ryan. Keep going. It had to do with the part where I talked about the golf pro being able to, I guess, give free golf. Don't panic. I'm not asking to just give golf away, but I would like to see there be a little bit of leeway there, so that if there is an angry customer that comes in, I have the ability to maybe throw them out a golf cart to kind of smooth things over and work on the PR side of things. Or say somebody comes in with a family of 10 and they're celebrating their boy's birthday, might be a nice gesture to, comp that $7 junior fee for the day for them for a birthday, and make them feel welcome, or just do different things like that. That's not something that frequently happens. And like I said, my main priority is generating revenue and making the golf course successful. But just being able to have somewhat little leeway would be nice.
One thing the question that raises though with that, and I'm not saying from a business aspect, like if I'm running my own personal business, that makes 100% sense.
Right.
However, I do feel like there's a little bit of a caveat there with it being city ran, taxpayer ran. To give something to somebody is, I think that we already kind of addressed this.
Yeah, there are legal problems with that. And where it's a municipal course, we're not supposed to be giving anything.
Yeah, now, how I can see that working is if, like, your proceeds from the pro shop, if you're, if you're making money and you're like, hey, I'm gonna, put on my tab, like,
Right, or some walls or something.
yeah, or even you say,
I'll cover it.
I'll cover it. I see that being a possibility. It's just we get in a little bit of sticky situation when if we give something as municipalities to somebody.
Right.
I think that puts us in it's totally different than, because I'm the same way you think. In my business, I hand out hats, you take people to lunch every once in a while, and, we do a few things that way, just to show our appreciation, but, and to increase goodwill, but, yeah, that's a tough.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just came across that today and had that thought, so. The other one in there would be, lessons. Golf courses throughout the state, even pros that own their own golf shop get their lesson fees. I know we've had a lot of discussion on that back and forth in our meetings, so, I mean, it's not a deal breaker, but something in there that.
What time did that take lessons?
I'm trying to stick to 30-minute lessons.
Are you sometimes like busier than other times or?
Yeah, it's really hit and miss. I mean, we make them schedule lessons around really my availability, and again, my top priority is taking care of the golf course, making sure that it's running and things are getting done, so. But other than that, those are just some of the things that stuck out to me.
Yeah, any questions from the council, or things that the council saw in the contract that raises any kind of concerns or red flags, or good or bad, or?
So for me, like, just the concept is definitely hard for me to wrap my head around, just because it's something that I'm not familiar with, and it just seems like a situation where there could be some issues come up in the future, so I'm working on trying to understand it, and I think that there's maybe some things we can do to make you happy, and to still be profitable, and to come up with an agreement. But, this is hard for me, so just let you know.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate that concern.
Any other items or specific things that we? And then obviously, we did talk about, and it's been mentioned, inventory, purchasing the inventory. Do you have any questions, concerns? I think it was basically we count and it's whatever the cost was, is what we paid for it. Things like that. Is that accurate?
I know that's been discussed. It's also been discussed that there's some things in there that could probably go to surplus.
Okay.
So if that was a possibility, then yeah, I'd be fine with purchasing it at cost. Even though there's some older things in there, that's fine as part of taking those business.
Mm-hmm. One other thing, and I don't know that it's in here, it goes back to the kind of about the gifting thing, but it has been brought up by certain members of the Need to Make Out Committee that we make sure that people are paying off and we're policing that. I don't know if it identifies this in the contract, or that would probably be in job description. That would be taken care of. But that just made me think, I know that there are some with some concerns that people,
right?
Not even you saying, oh yeah, I'll gift you this, but
Yeah.
people just taking full advantage and going, and I think you guys have done a lot better job of kind of policing that and saying, no, you gotta get in there and make sure, they just call it, like, people are stealing, when they just go on the golf course and start golfing with that.
Right.
And that goes to, and wouldn't have to do with this contract, but I thought it did come up, and now that I'm thinking of it, we'd just like to mention, how are we doing with marshals and making sure that people are up there and policing some of those things and having people that feel comfortable with those types of situations.
Yeah.
Right. For a 16-year-old kid to to address that. That's a little bit tough with them. For, an adult, it's a little easier to say, no, you need to get back there and pay your fees or your course.
Yeah, definitely.
So just as we're looking at this and marshalling.
That is one thing that we'll get to, because I believe we just gave them free golf, right?
Yeah.
Marshall, and so technically that's given away, yeah, they're providing a service, but we're giving them free golf without any kind of contract with them.
Probably the parameters. I know we do some contracts with other part-time employees and how they're compensated. That's probably something.
It's a good point, Robbie, because at least there's no contract or written agreement that I'm aware of. I think we could address it in practice, could probably get us saying that through the written agreement would be able to show that we were getting their service in exchange for.
Make them sign like a volunteer sign-in log or something with an agreement or something.
That's a good point.
Sorry, that's the side from this, but
I'll just, never mind.
no, go
We
ahead.
don't need to answer. I don't go golfing. I've never been golfing, so I was wondering what a marshal is. Is it just like something that just comes on the just
Contract
contract?
badge.
Here's a shotgun.
No, it's just a person that is gonna make sure the traffic is moving along, people are obeying the rules and things like that.
We've changed the name from marshal to player assistance.
Oh, yeah. It's not as cool anymore.
No more guns. This is the 21st century. Relabeling of things.
Title of marshals.
Aaron, you don't have a time frame, like, why are we doing right now?
Yeah, we've been trying to work on this for a while. Time frame, we are like 3 or 4 months behind. It's all pre-books and things happen in the fall for spring, so to start getting merchandise in, we're already behind the game quite a bit. A lot to do to set up, new POS system. If I do take over, I'll have to get that set up. There's just a lot to do in the next month or two before we open, so time frame wise, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, let's just make a decision in the next hour. No, just kidding.
The POS is not what you're thinking. Councilman.
Point of sale. Point of sale.
So time frame wise, definitely as soon as possible, just because there's so much to do and get ready, so.
Well, I think, I don't know if the council's ready to enter into an agreement at this point. Do we have, are there certain things we want to look at? Which direction do we want to go?
I think we should, personal thought is I'm not ready to commit to anything. I think if we continue to, as we have been the last 7 years or whatever, as it is now, for another year, and maybe go through some of this stuff. And if we even want to do it mid-year, if there was a good breaking year where we've negotiated some things, you talk to the manager, and he's, we've all talked with each other, and find something that's beneficial, that could benefit both of us and have a problem going that direction. But I think right now, today and maybe for the next few months, I don't know. It seems like a lot of negotiating, a lot of, I think this would be best handled between city manager, city attorney, mayor, and you, and then brought to the council after. I think mayor, just based on our closed discussion, has an idea of kind of what we hope to see. So if you guys can work on some of those things and then come back to us, I think that would be good.
Realistically, what needs to be done to get hard numbers on the merchandise value and a decision on what you would be buying and what you would want surplus? I think we need to be working on real numbers before you guys can be making a decision. So what needs to happen there and how much time will it take?
We'll just need to do an inventory audit, getting some bodies up there to count inventory, but maybe we've done.
I know we tried that. That's the other comment that Councilman Baird made that I was cringed at a little bit. Doing something mid-year is like, whoa. Just because we did, well, your other comment, and not to say it was a poor comment, it's just that that's kind of where we were at in the fall, and things were still in flux, things were being sold, things were being brought in inventory, and then trying to count and get an idea. So now is to get numbers, prime time, and quickly to do that so that we can establish what is there and how much value there is, and things like that. So, but yeah, no.
That's what I worry about. We first discussed this back in August, right? I remember you coming in and we're saying, we need to come up with something soon. Because, I mean, whether or not you had offers or whatever it was, but we kind of come to the decision that we need to make something quick. And then I think you guys put it aside so that you could wait till the off season. So for me, I mean, I think we need to make a decision one way or the other within the next month. I think it's fair to you.
Yeah.
To make that, commitment to you that we're gonna have you a decision by then.
I think we can agree to spell it out and negotiate it.
I think we've done so much research. I mean, there's a couple of little things if the council could take a little more time to give us some thought and what direction they think we need to go, and making sure that, the city is whole and not going in the hole. I don't think it'll take really that long. We've been hashing this through for quite a long time. And so I think we just push through getting the numbers, dialing in a few other things, and then even coming up with a plan A, plan B, or a couple of scenarios, I don't know, but something that we can at least say, here's a couple scenarios, here's where we're gonna end up, which one, how is it looking, in which direction do we go? But have them all laid out. I think we have information we can do that, I think.
I mean, I could make the decision that based, if we have all facts in front of us right now, I would be happy to make a decision tonight, but I don't know what I was kind of getting at. So,
Yeah.
if you guys can have that on Sunday, be happy to assist in that decision. But
I think we can work towards something.
The February meeting, we can have it on the contract, every blank filled in, ready for at least any negotiation. He dislikes it, council dislikes it, but at least the blanks filled in to where you can go one way or another.
So let me ask the question. Well, maybe that's a poor question to ask. If things continued as is, but some of your we got you a little extra help, some of your responsibilities were eliminated from one side, and you were just structured how you are now, and you just focused on, the golf aspect, and not so much, the inside dealing with the people aspect. I mean, is that even appealing to you?
Yeah, I mean,
Or not?
I mean, I got all aspects of it, so there's one thing that's more appealing than another, but definitely some more help would be ideal.
Well, you know what I think, Josh? Let's do what I think as Councilman Baird or Rowdy mentioned. Just get a few of us together and maybe go through some of those scenarios and see how that works out, and then just hash through some of those things. And I don't know. I think there's some options that we can go through and just get everything all pan out and work out. And ultimately, the council makes the final decision, but I think what we need for the council is a few options to look at and say, okay, yeah, this is more along the lines of what we're thinking, or this is more along the lines of what we're thinking, and then move that direction, and have enough information that whatever avenue they take, we have enough information that we can make a decision on any one of those options. Would that be?
Yeah, we set a time frame for the February meeting to have all those options in front of you. In front of all of you.
Yeah.
You'll be involved in the negotiations, don't worry about it. Before council at the meeting.
But I do want to ask, and I know we're getting late on time, and then we're going to have to keep standing up there, because then we'll just have you present the golf course rates while you're there, and then we'll read the LTAP for the very end. But one of the things you know, the council feedback that I would like from the council is, do you see anything that is a deal breaker to the council? Ramps, I know came up, you know, lessons come up as far as, you know, being paid for lessons, those types of things, like, give us a little bit of feedback on that.
From council?
Yeah, just so that we know when we're negotiating this, we're not wasting your time.
I think there were a few things that Grant brought up that we need to have written down. As far as legalities, even though this is done in a lot of places, there were some things that he had concerns about that maybe we don't have the full picture, but I want you to be happy, but I also don't want the city to be put in a spot. And if we do this and don't do it right, you know, we could both not be very happy.
I think the rent is a deal breaker for me, but that's just one vote. You know, we've got five, so I want you to pay rent. Minimum fair market value, you know, low fair market value would be fine with me, but I think that it might be necessary as far as my vote's concerned or something.
Thoughts?
I don't know enough about it. I'm learning as I go, so I'm kind of David Bear. I go up there for cross country meets, and that's about it. I'll get some homework.
Yeah. Well, at least we can address some of those things that maybe, and that's what I wanted to do, at least from this meeting, is like not leave here without some feel of where we need to be and kind of where the council lies, and that'll help guide more of our conversations and dictate where we're spending our time. So, any other thoughts on that? So I'm getting at, the consensus is to, you know, we'll work diligently to get everything ready by the next, well, not next meeting, but a month from this meeting. And try to have it done and done.
Okay, thanks for entertaining it. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks for
And then, would you go ahead and move right into the,
Fees.
yeah, yes.
So we have not increased fees at the golf for at least 3 years. I think 4 years ago was the last time we had a fee increase. Doing comparables to other golf courses, we are definitely on the low end. So it's probably time that we look at some fee increases. These are just some comparisons we put together so you can kind of see similar to our market. A few of those courses are obviously bigger markets, but pretty similar to where we're at city-wise, population-wise. So just gives you a little bit of an idea, and then kind of some suggested rates. We didn't feel like we wanted to be the highest, but we also didn't want to be the lowest anymore. So we kind of looking at raising the rates just a little bit to get even or the same price as some of these other places.
Aaron, I know in some of our meetings and something that I personally feel strongly about is looking at charging a different rate for outside of city limits. I know there's a little bit of concern with that, and some people think that it's a good idea. What are your thoughts on that? And does this show any of that, or?
This does not show any of that. This would just be a standard rate for everybody that comes in.
What about, I just had this thought, sorry to interrupt. What about you publish the rate as if it was for out of city residents?
Mm-hmm.
But when the residents come in, they get a discount.
I like it. And I've heard that proposed by somebody, I don't know who it was.
That way you don't have published two different rates.
Yeah. Somebody in the opportunity mentioned the same thing. So that is a really good thought.
Yeah, just from our standpoint, I mean, we're definitely willing to try it. Policing it and monitoring it's going to be really hard, difficult part on our end. But we're definitely willing to try it.
Here's what, and this was what was brought up along with that, is we want to do the same thing at the pool. We want to do the same thing with, you know, sporting events or our youth sports and things like that. But what they could do is come down to the city office and pick up a card that says, I am a city resident.
Yeah.
Something like that. Instead of having to tote their bill around. See, I'm being charged, like, but they can come and get a card that says they're a city resident. And then if they present the card, they get the discount. If they don't, they don't. You don't have the card? Sorry. You forgot it at home?
We should just mail it to every citizen that pays.
Yeah, we could do something like that. Yeah. So we would want, if we did something like that, we would want to make it cut and dry, very easy, have the card or have the thing, get a discount, if not, no. And that's the rule.
Yeah, something like that would work definitely. I don't know if we need to put an ID on it or anything, because nothing not gonna stop.
Just
Switch
switch
it
your
relative.
number and credit.
That's fine. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to that, but just a thought too. If someone doesn't play golf like Councilman Barrett and his father-in-law's in town, it's a big golfer, you know. Hey, take my card up there, you know, I don't.
Yeah.
Imagine if we see a lot of that.
Well, that's a good, and those are good, valid concerns too, and that's all things to be considered as we're looking at doing something like that.
Yeah, we're definitely not opposed to having a resident, non-resident rate at all.
So on these rates, what is the percentage increase over our?
I did not go through and do a percentage increase on it.
Mayor, if I may say something here, this is in the discussion portion of the council meeting.
Okay.
My thought is this would go through the golf committee for an official recommendation. So some of the specifics we can get there. This is before council to make sure that we go down that road if council wants to. So this isn't for official adoption
Well, if
tonight.
that's the case, I really do think we need to raise the rates, and so let's go ahead and let the board make a recommendation.
So moved.
So, in all honesty, yeah, and so if that's what you're looking for, I think, yeah. I don't know that we need a motion, but because the golf committee can make recommendations as they please. Yeah. But I think it's a good thing, and we're due. Inflation and everything has gone up, our costs have gone up, we need to recapture those costs, and they need to reflect at least 20% from some of the businesses that we visited with, so.
You really.
What? I don't know what's going on here, but we'll go ahead and thank you, Aaron. Appreciate your effort in that. And we'll get you an answer next month.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go to title review.
All right, I'll be brief, guys.
35 seconds.
Okay, this is it's a pavement assessment. I do this probably, I try to, every 5 years. So LTAP will come out and they'll assess our roads to keep us up on the maintenance and what type of maintenance we may need. So real briefly, this year, you see the map, everything in green? So that is the roads that are actually, the remaining service life, RSL. They're like 17 to 20 years, but we don't want them to get bad. You know, these are the roads we've had done in the past. So we want them to be crack sealed, so no water gets in there and deteriorates them, which would cost a lot more money to keep up maintenance. So this year, we budgeted $200,000 toward those type of streets. And all that there in the green that you see, just by looking at it with the engineers and stuff, we'll probably get 75% of that green done this year.
With the crack fill?
Yes.
Nice.
So the red you see is that's your most critical, and we're only at a 4% of the more streets. And those roads, a lot of people will want you to say, well, why aren't you doing those first? Well, they're already to the point to be reconstructed, and they're likely to need infrastructure, water lines, they're the expensive ones. So you're keeping them, you know, workable, but they're already gone. They're not gonna get any worse. The streets we spent all our money on, millions of dollars, you wanna keep them where they're at. So that's why we're crack sealing the streets.
So, and that does make sense. One thing to think about though is that the ones that we get the most complaints on are the ones that are in red.
Yes.
And so what kind of a plan do we have in place to make sure that those are, I know they're very expensive,
Yeah.
but we have to address them and,
Yes.
and get them up to par.
So last year, JR, if you remember, we did some of the reconstruct and the more expensive streets.
Mhm.
So I'm moving this year to address the streets so they don't get in worse condition to where they become a lot more expensive for the city to maintain. You know what I mean? So that's part of it. Right back following year, we will look at doing the reconstruction streets and the water lines, which some of this can be addressed maybe with the division of water, right, on the transite lines to be replaced. That'd be a good time to look at. So
one of the thoughts that I have, and I really like this, because this is something that I've asked you about.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, oh yeah, we've got it. In the works, but I wonder, like, I know this year we're gonna be working on, ceiling and everything else. Are you proactively looking, like, right now and saying, okay, these are the streets that we're gonna recomplete next year or in 2 years? Do we have?
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is with our, like, CID funds and things like that, are these being injected into that on the 5-year, 3-year, and 1-year plans to make sure that they're always in the hopper? And
gotcha.
And the thing that I would like to see with that is if they are, and the council knows about it, when we get a call from a citizen that says, hey, my street is in complete disaster, I can say, well, you know what, that's on the 3-year plan, and that'll come up in 3 years, and that'll be redone. And I can explain to them why that is taking so long. At least they know, one, it's in the hopper, and two, it's being addressed, and they can expect it at a certain point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With the CID, we actually have it on the list.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
General.
Yeah.
It's a general.
Will be covered.
That's always
Right. And what I'm thinking is on our end,
Yeah.
From the council side and even the staff side, is to have it detailed where we can say, these are the roads, this is how much we think our BC road funds are coming in and things like that. This is what we feel like we can tackle, and this is the amount that we'll need to do to stay on top of it.
I didn't have the amount, but I have a 1 to 5-year list that I turned into Josh.
Okay.
That I ordered.
Okay. That would be
So,
awesome.
and I can get that to you.
And does that,
But this helps me evaluate and assess, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To know where we're at and how much we need, and just real quick, towards the budgeting number on the, she knows this. So they're saying on average, we need to spend $400,000 a year on whatever type of maintenance we do, but that's the average. But just like everything, costs went up. So now they suggest it's $500,000 a year, and we can stay at a certain number and keep our roads to where we need to be, where they won't deteriorate anymore.
And that's where, what I'm thinking of with our, water projects and things like that. If we have 500,000 set aside and we can get a water project done, but we can leverage some of that 500,000 for grant and things like that. Those are the types of things that we need to be pulling together and making sure that we're leveraging that 500,000 and multiplying it by 2 or 3 or 4 by these other grants and other similar, projects that would go hand in hand with our road reconstruction.
Yes.
so one of these, the road there, just the one by the post office going east to west, and then the one goes. There was a road that I think that it's on here is not, it's like in 0 to 4 life, and I think it got fixed this last year.
It did just recently, and I discussed this with them. Okay. And another thing about this, which is really nice, is we can implement this in our GIS. So
That's
we'll
great.
put in there, what we've done, what treatment was done, what year, and it's really easy to pull up and look at and say, oh, that was done 3 years ago. Because some of your routine maintenance was only good to 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, I do want to say thanks for all you did last year. I know it was kind of a little bit drawn out, but the work looks good, and appreciate you making that effort to do all that. That was, I know, a big job. It looks good. So
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Well, that's all I got. And if you guys have anything else, for me later as you look through this, feel free to talk to me, or maybe at a work session or something. You know what I mean? If there's a lot more questions.
Looking forward to State Street being
Yeah, me too.
redone.
Me too.
Hallelujah. That'd be nice.
Well, thanks. Appreciate you all.
Thanks, Curtis. Appreciate you. Looks like we lost our city manager.
You just read outside and grab it.
But well, let's go over the purchase orders real quick. Any questions on purchase orders? Nope. Motion approved. Okay, I have a motion to approve by Councilman White.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Baird, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and then committee reports, do we have anything from the, from our committees? Councilman Allen, do you have anything for us tonight? No. All I have is, we did the MOU with Southern City, we got it finalized, Grant put some finishing touches on it. It's been sent back to him, currently he hasn't received it yet, but I'll get a hold of Mayor Adam Company tomorrow, make sure that that's done, and then we can start working on the construction of the gun range. And so having those discussions, so, Councilman, yeah, Councilman White? No? Did you have anything in addition?
One quick thing. I know it's like, but I can't go a few minutes out. If you did not hear, we had a main water line break this morning at 2 a.m. I think Ryan is on hour 17 just today. So I just want to compliment him and his crew. She's going to kill me, but I want to compliment him, his crew, Kirby's guys, they're out there. It was a flood of water. If you haven't been down there, it's a mess.
Where was it?
It was just where Palmer's Tire is, and their parking lots where it broke. Went down that hill and just washed a lot. I asked Ryan, true story, I asked him, is that road paved or has it always been dirt? It's a paved road. That's how bad it was. It's just, but hats off to them. They've been going crazy. Just like our salt usage, we're at 1.5 times what we normally do. It's been a rough year, and those guys have been phenomenal. So sorry to take more time, but I got a compliment them.
Time well spent, thank you. And thanks, Ryan. And would you please relay that to your guys as well, and also for these guys. And again, if you guys need help, I'll get down in the trenches, I'll bring pizza, you guys relax, I'll start with the shovel, whatever, seriously.
Pizza at 3 in the morning is a little.
Hey, I've got.
Betos is open
Or
at 3.
DiGiorno. We'll heat it up,
We can go get a burritos at
or at
Betos.
least pop. Items for future discussion that we haven't already addressed. Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Juju Beck. Flower. We are adjourned. Thanks.